Welcome. In this lesson, we are going to begin our first introduction to pandas. So, we're going to look at pandas fundamentals. So, you can think of it as pandas basics, actually. The same thing, really. So, what is pandas? So, pandas is a it's an incredible library for data wrangling, really, just data handling within Python, and it is built on top of NumPy for one brilliant reason. In the last video, like in the prior video, the first video in this particular EDA series, we looked at NumPy, the things we can do with NumPy, and you're going to see that majority of the things that we cover, they are pretty much abstract, right? So and that's because the way you think about data, the way we think about data as humans is a bit different from the way NumPy implements um, every operation that is happening. So NumPy really works with arrays. So the basic data structure in NumPy is array. However, this is efficient for computation, but as humans, whenever we think of data, we think of spreadsheet. So you can think of pandas, and that's what pandas brings. You can think of pandas as the spreadsheet, as the Microsoft Excel of Python. So it helps you to do a lot of different things where you can interact with data just like as you would with a spreadsheet. That's basically everything that Pandas helps us to do. And it uses the power of NumPy for that. So it is built on NumPy and does this brilliant spreadsheet kind of operation. And that is why it is extremely popular in data science and analytics, especially. So to use pandas, we say import pandas as PD. And I told you this bit on top of NumPy. So sometimes you want to accompany that with by importing NumPy also. So the first thing that we're going to be looking at is how to create data frames. So tables in pandas are called data frames, while columns are called series. And that is something important to always remember. So I'm going to say creating data frame. So this particular video is going to like be focused on just how to create data frames. You must firstly learn how to create data frames. So for the first one that we're going to be learning is from scratch. How to create data frames from list of lists. So it's going to be from basic data structures. From basic data structures. I don't know if this is a good idea. Let me just say creating data frames, right? And yeah, I think that's cool. You're going to be able to get, so this is going to be from list of lists. Let's make it like that. So how do we create data from list of lists? So let's say we have a list of lists and we say students, and the names of the students are going to be John. John is 23-year old and John is male. Fola. Fola is 26 years old and Fola is female. Um, Ada. Ada is 32 years old. Ada is male. And say Ibrahim. Ibrahim is 33 years old and Ibrahim is female. Or male. That should be male. Right. So we have a list of lists for our data, and for us to convert this into a data frame, the first thing we want to do is specify. Actually, let's just go ahead and create. Say turn it to a data frame. So how do we do that? We are going to say students underscore df, and this is just like a naming convention in pandas generally to always add this df so that you remember your future self or anybody that is working with you can remember. But variable name is still variable names. You can name it however you want, as long as you are consistent with Python's kind of naming. So we're going to say pd, which is what we've import pandas as. So I can say pd dot data frame, and it is going to be like this, and we pass in our data. So we say the data is students, and we are going to pass in the columns also. So the columns is going to be the first column here. We pass this thing row wise, row 1, row 2, row 3, but the column names, this is like column 1, column 2, column 3. So this column 1 is column of names, so I have to pass that in here. Then second one is age. Let's say name here instead of names. Say name, age, and gender. And if we come out here and just call students df like this, what's going to happen is that we have John 23. Each of these things, they've been presented to us as a data frame. So this is basically what we call a data frame, right? So we have columns and we have rows, and it is easy for us, even comes with index, and it is easy for us to actually relate to all of these things like analysts. All right, this is kind of like a spreadsheet. So yeah, that's how you create a data frame from list of lists. But how do we create data frames from dictionaries? And I might add that this in this case you can also, this is the same flow also for creating data frame from arrays, from numpy arrays. So you can convert this to a numpy array and it still is going to do the same thing. That is, you can say student underscore array, and can say np dot array of students. And you could come here and instead of having ordinary students here, you can have students underscore array. And if you run this, it still works, does the same thing, right? So even though we are creating with a numpy array now. So I'll remove that just to show you that you could do that. So to create from dictionaries is to, let's say we have a dictionary of football clubs, something like that. Say clubs, and we have dictionary like this. The key takeaway in this case is for list of lists, right? You're going to be passing your data in row wise, but for dictionary, you're going to be passing it in column wise. So what does that mean? First one is we're going to have, or let's even create this exact one, but this time we're going to do it with dictionary style. So instead of clubs, I'm going to call it students dict. So we're also going to have names, even though we don't have the same kind of names for them. So we're going to start off with names. You know how dictionaries work? Dictionaries work with key value pairs. So John, I think John is the first one. Second one is Fola. Third one is Ada. Fourth one is Ibrahim. Then second one we have, I think, age. And for age we have, I don't know what the first age is, but let's just pass in like 14. Oh, John, sorry, it's 23, 26, 32, 33. And gender is going to be, I think, male, female, male, and finally male. So for us to, that is all. For us to create this um data frame, let's call it students let's call this one std underscore df, so that it does not override the student's df. So we're going to say pd dot data frame, and we pass in our data equals students underscore dict. Now, why is this going to work without passing in columns like we did for this one? The reason is because dictionaries already come with keys. So there's no point passing in this one. So apart from the fact that your data has to come in column wise in dictionary as opposed to row wise in list of lists, dictionary already come with keys. So there's no point in passing in columns. So if we check std underscore df and we do dot add, and we do dot add, we don't worry about dot add yet. So let's just do this. We have the same thing that we had here earlier. So we've created it. So this is a dictionary way of creating um, data frame from scratch, and this is a list of lists way of creating from scratch. Now, another thing, you are really not going to be doing this a lot of times, because imagine you have like 100,000 rows. You are never going to sit down and type 100,000 rows like this. But it comes in handy, especially in situations where you want to use other methods, like you want to connect to a database, which you are going to be seeing in this video also, or you want to like do several things like create an API or stuff like that. So these methods comes in handy. So the method I are really going to be using a lot in my experience is the reading from files, CSV files, something like that. So let's look at that. Let's look at that. So loading an existing loading an existing CSV Excel file, something like that. So how do we do that? First thing is, if you are working on Collab like I am currently, you have to upload that particular CSV file to your session storage. So you come to this place like this envelope here, click on this, then you click on upload to session storage, or you can upload it to your Google Drive if you want. Well, I prefer session storage. Then you can look for some data on your computer. So let's say I want to get this submission. Let me look for something interesting. Cleaned final data is probably all of these data sets are I cannot share it with you guys. I'm looking for something that is mm, something that is okay. I think this BTC coin market cap might be, yeah, I think that is just some practice data sets. So there is this BTC data. I'm going to rename it just so it makes it, just so it is easier for us to write it. So I'm going to call it BTC underscore data. So again, you click on upload session storage. It's going to give you that pop up where you look for the stuff that you need. Then you click on open and it loads the data. Make sure you have the data here. And if you are working on something like Jupyter Notebook locally on your computer from, let's say, Anaconda or VS Code, what you want to do is you want to put the data set in your working directory. You want to put it in the same place where you have this IPYNB file. That is what you want to do. So for it to work. So we're going to say data, or let's call it BTC underscore DF. BTC underscore DF is going to be equals to PD. In this case, before we've been using .data frame. In this case, we're going to say PD.read underscore CSV. If it is a CSV file, if it is an Excel file, if it has .xls, you want to read it as XLS. So it's a PD.read underscore CSV, and the name of the data set is going to be BTC underscore data dot CSV. And if we come here and get BTC underscore DF, this is the that's interesting. This is the data here. That is not usually the way it's going to print it, but this is not clearly formatted very well. So just for the sake of it, let me go look for another data quickly and see so that you can like get a feel of what it looks like. Email data set. Let's use this email. This is from a practice. This is an Excel data. Um, hold on. Give me a minute. I actually have majority of the data sets that I have are all um they are all data set that I cannot. Okay, yeah, this clean marketing is a practice data set. So I'm going to click on open this clean marketing so you can ignore this example. I mean, what we are going to be doing is the same thing, really, like really, really. But I do not want us to use this just so that you don't think this is the way this guy is going to always load this data set. I don't know why that clean marketing is taking so long, but is it here now? That took longer than usual, but it's here finally. So let's rename it into something clean. We are going to remove this one here, as not needed. Enter. So instead of BTC data now, I'm going to say Control D. I'm going to change this to marketing underscore DF. Let me write it from scratch again for you. I'm going to say marketing underscore DF. Let me repeat it or read underscore CSV, and the name of this CSV file cleaned underscore marketing dot CSV. And since that is red, I can print it. So this is perfect. Can you see? Like very, very perfect. So this is the way, this is an existing data and it has been loaded into our working environment and we can start working with it. So majority of the data that I'm going to be working with are going to, either be using pd.read CSV if it is a CSV file, pd.read Excel if it is an XLS file or XLSX file. So this is how you load data. You're going to be seeing this method a lot before the end of the course. Like we are going to be using it a lot. So let's look at the next method, which is the last method that we're going to be looking at, and can be a little bit, but I know you're going to get it. So I'm going to say loading, let's say reading data from a relational database. So in this case, we are going to be using MySQL because that is the RDBMS that I have on my computer. And for this to work, you must have MySQL running on your computer. You must also know a bit of SQL. If you don't know SQL, there is no reason why you should be learning Python now. You should not be in this video now. You should probably go through some basics of SQL. That's what you learn first. And in my opinion, whether you are learning data science or data analytics, I strongly believe that even for data science, you should learn MySQL first. Know how data works, have good appreciation of databases, how to query it and all of that. And also just get yourself gently introduced to something that looks like programming really, which is MySQL, which is SQL generally. So if you don't have SQL running on your computer, this particular thing that I want to do now is not going to work. So yeah, let's get right into it. So what do we do? Firstly, in the case of SQL, it is a little bit different. So we need to set up connection. So the first thing we do is we set connection to our database. So how do we do that? We can define a function. We're going to say define a function called connect underscore db. And connect underscore db is going to take a couple of parameters. These are normally the parameters that you would use to log in into your databases normally. Let's say Workbench. Now, these are the things that you need. So, what are those things? You're going to need user underscore name. You are going to need host name. You are going to need password. You are going to need db underscore name. I think those are everything that you're going to need. Username, host name, password, db name. Port is the same, is default. So what we are going to do is we firstly need to actually import a library. So I can say from MySQL, uh, is it dot MySQL import? I'm coming. We don't even have the library yet. So let's come here and do pip install MySQL. I think I've in Python. Let's go check their doc. I can't remember. MySQL Python connector. Yeah, this one here. MySQL hyphen connector hyphen Python. Let's see if that is the one. MySQL hyphen connector. I doubt it. Maybe this is not the right. MySQL Python documentation. They have a doc that I always refer to, but I can't seem to find it. Maybe it's this one. I think yeah, it's this one. So installation should be something that we can find around here. Nope. Okay, this is it. Yeah. Connector Python installation. Just make sure that we are doing the right thing. Why is it so, bro? Yeah, we're correct. So it's pip install MySQL connector hyphen Python. So majority of the other thing, just to use the opportunity to show how this thing works. Coding examples, connecting to MySQL. Yeah, something like this. So this is yeah, that's what we are doing. What you see here, majority of the things that you see here, this is what I've just tried to like set up now. So we can go back since we know everything is fine now. So we delete this. So we say import mysql.connector. Say import mysql. Perfect. Then we can say from mysql dot connector, we can import error just so that we can handle our error module. Yeah, proper and the error from SQL properly. So what we're going to do, I'm going to say connection equals none, just so that we can do exception handling, right? So if we run into Python errors, do this thing. If we run into SQL error, do this other thing. But then we'll keep connection as none, so that whenever we run into SQL error, it returns none. So I can say try. You must have learned exception handling in Python fundamentals. So if you have skipped that particular part of learning, you probably should go back to it and just get a good feel of all of these things. So we're going to say try connection equals mysql dot connector dot connect. Perfect. So in this place, we are going to pass in a few parameters. Those parameters are in here. So the first one we are going to pass in is, I'm going to say user equals user underscore name, host equals host underscore name, pass wd equals password, d database equals db underscore name. I think that's everything. And so if this is successful, we can print f string connected to database db name successfully. And we can say except um, error as error. That is the error from my MySQL. So print f string and say error, and the detail of the error is going to be error. And after that, you can come here and return connection. That's basically the whole thing. So what I just did here is the same thing that is here, but then I just wrote it like in a way that is closer. I said closer just from saying this close. In a way that is cleaner, right? Cleaner, wrapped it in a function so that everything is perfect. And usually it is good practice that you close the connection the moment you are done, right? So we can come here and try it out. Let's see if it works. So we can say connect. You can say connection is going to be equals to connect db, and you pass in the information that you want to like give to it. No, normally you don't want stuffs lying outside like this, right? So I can say username equals user, host name equals host, password equals pass, and db name equals Northwind. There's a Northwind database that we're going to work on. That's not a secret. So I don't want all of these guys to be okay. Let's say pass W. Let's just call it pass W. So I don't want these guys to be exposed. So I'm going to come here and say from ipython dot display import clear output. So clear output is this thing that we use to clear output whenever we pass in some inputs. We're passing some input is going to get printed here. But if we don't want it to get printed, we close it. So for example, if I say user equals input and I go like this, user, control C like this. Then for password also. So I can change this from user to host. Then I can change this from user to pass W like this. So if I run this and I give some, some dummy values as the username, dummy value as host. So you see that all of these, yeah, there is no connection. You see, can't connect to MySQL server on this particular credential because I passed in wrong credential, right? Now, but this gets printed here, and this is bad habits. You don't want this to get printed out like this. So you can just add clear output so that when everything is done, we clear output. So if I should do that again, do that again, do that again, the moment we execute, you don't see those things anymore. So that is what we are doing. So I'm going to pass in the correct input and see. So my user is going to be, your user is going to be root if you are working on, unless if you change it. Then your host is going to be local host. And my password is just 1234. So it says cannot connect to MySQL server on localhost 3306. Let me give that one a spin one more time to see. My user is root. My host is localhost, and my password is usually this, I guess. 1234. Okay, can't still connect. Let's make sure it's not any issue with this. That was okay. So I'm just going to go to. I have a sample database running on cloud on even.io. So let me just quickly log into that and use that. I don't know what is wrong with my local MySQL, and this way I can quickly check. Just log in and yeah. I mean, so I have this particular Notwind running, so I can click on it and get this information here. This is actually not a secret, so that's why I'm leaving it in this video. So if you need a practice database to connect to, you can always use this one. So what I'm going to do is copy this host, come here, rerun this, and if this does not work, I know that there is something wrong in my code, in the structure of my code. So I'm going to copy user first, paste it here, host next, which is going to be this, but now I need to add port. So let me just end this and add, we need to add port here because then there is port. I'm just going to add code it in this place and say port. I'm going to give it a default parameter. So port is going to be, what's the value of port? 25396. But if you are connecting to localhost, you don't need to do that. 25396. You don't need to do that if you are because by default your port is 3306. So let's run this again. So Control V, no, Control Z. Let's copy our user again, paste it here, copy our host. Oh my god, I did not pass in this, another mistake. Okay, we need to pass in here and say port because port, like that. Yeah. So again, Control V, run that, and host is going to be this and this. Password is going to be this and this. Yeah, so can you see? So it says connected to database not went successfully. So everything that we wrote in the code is correct. The problem was that my credential in the local host is not correct. So the next thing I want to do quickly, this video is running really long, is we want to set up a um a query, and this guy actually has a read PD or read, what do you call it again? Read SQL, where you can just pass in the query and the stuff. So I can do something like query. I'm guessing that is right. Query, then I can pass my query in and do something like this and say select star from employees. So this is just basic. I think E like this. And Control Z employees. So I can come here and say data equals PD. I know you could do this. Read PD.read underscore SQL There's read underscore SQL. Perfect. So, and in read underscore SQL, you pass in the query and the connection. So, you can say SQL equals query, then con equals the connection that we've created. So, if we run this, right, so we can check our data now, data.add, and we're going to see that it has grabbed our employee ID, last name, first name, title, all of those things I wanted to see. And if what you want to see is just first name, comma, last name, and we run that so that we have our first name, last name that is inside that particular place. And if you want, you can actually define your read query by yourself. You know, like you can just do your read query by yourself, write it, where you write a function that accepts the query, passes it, for loop over the result of the output. But in my opinion, there's really no point. But it's something that you can do. It is in the doc also. It is in the doc and it has a very clean implementation. Let me show it to you quickly. So yeah, something like this. So you do cursor.execute query. Once you execute the query, it comes out as a list of tuples. Then you can loop over that list of tuples, convert it to a list of lists if you want. Then use list of list method to turn that to a pandas data frame. It's a bit of a long approach, but it's not that difficult to do. But well, for most of your use case, this works. This is perfect. So that is how we create data frames. That's how we get it. There are still other sources of getting data frames. From web scraping, everything just comes back down to one of these ways. So the ones I've shown you are like the most important ways and the most common ways that are going to be uh, loading data into Pandas data frame. So that is that, and see you in the next one.